Hi, everyone, and welcome to Decode Clown World with Carly. I just thought this would be a bit of a fun thing to do. And as we know, nothing is kind of as it seems. And one of my passions is the decode, is to decode the language, is to decode symbolism. I kind of had this I was doing my yoga this morning, trying to get back into my yoga. And has anyone seen the film They Live? And he puts the glasses on, doesn't he? And he sees things as they truly are. And I think one of my favorite quotes, and if you've watched a few of the interviews I've been doing recently, it bears repeating, but it is when the human race, and there is hue of man, which is a being of light, but that may actually neatly fall into the illusion, the flicker of Lucifer and the creator resting in the dark, but let's not go there just yet. But human in legalese, as we know, means sea monster. And anyway, that said, a great veil will fall from the minds of men when the human race learns the language of symbolism. So I kind of wanted to, decode Clown World a little today. And I'm going to do these as just a bit of fun and perhaps do them maybe not every day, depending on how busy I am with the other bits and bobs, but certainly just have a bit of fun with it. And I watched a really cool video that was sent to me by a friend of mine called Aidan Bailey. And it's within the Dark Matters platform, but I am going to link it below. And it was about the true nature of Israel. And whenever I've heard the state of Israel, we know state in quantum means quantum grammar, that is, means contract. A state is a contract. So when the Queen lay in state, that was the head of a corporate entity lying in a confinement in a coffin of contract of commerce. And yeah, is Israel, as I always say, the clues in the title, so let's have a look at it. We've got is Isis. Ra is the sun god, an Egyptian sun god. Ra from the Law of One material as well. And the Law of One material, we interviewed Jim McCarty. He was the scribe to the Law of One material. So if you've not checked that interview out on Dark Matters, I think it was episode 02. Ra was actually a sixth density social memory complex that came down to Egypt to illuminate and aid and guide people into adepthood, I suppose. But unfortunately, this information, shall we say, was hijacked by, as they say, the priest class. But again, that's another story. And then we've got El, Israel, and El is for Elohim. This is where you get Elizabeth. And again, when we can begin to break down words, and we've got the roots of words, which is the study of etymology, but we've also got word play, we've got word splitting. Our phonetics come from the Phoenicians, who were the the merchants of old, which is where maritime law stemmed from, the slave traders of old, ultimately, which is where you got old Khazaria from, Zionism, Zionist Jews. And, Zionist Jews, as we know, aren't true Jews. Zionist Jews are from Babylon. And that's where we get Babylonia from, or the Babel. Phonetics, Phoenicians. This is why we get, this is how we can begin to understand sounds and signs of language. So you can get two words that sound the same, but they're spelt in a different manner. And I think when we begin to decode what Israel is, Israel as a state is a contract, and the state of Israel, as we know in legalese, of means without. So the state of Israel means the state without Israel. And again, the true state of Israel, you could say, is a geographical location, just as it says in the video, and as we know in legal terms, that it would be a geographical location. And that you are actually standing on the land. This is where, you get the word standing from, as you would get standing in a courtroom. And the soles of the feet. This is why they put the sole of the foot of the baby on the birth certificate, BERTH, birth, because they want to take your soul. They want to deprive the children, and children in legalese we know means chattel, but for these, the children of the Creator, our sons and daughters of the Creator. And it is our land, our bodies. The land is our body that is taken from us, for the kingdom is within. And this video that I watched, and it's a great video, and I suggest everybody peruses it, shall we say, goes into this in more detail of how, again, we've been conned. We can stand on the geographical landmass, say, of Manchester. It's an actual geographical landmass. But the city of Manchester is the city without Manchester. And this is how they get away with it. Florida, well, that's a geographical state, is it not? But the state of Florida means the state without Florida. Hence why we get lawful and we get legal. It's interesting to know. I watched a really interesting video as well a couple of weeks ago about how Disneyland is a separate jurisdiction to Florida. I can't remember the name of the guy. I think it was one of the heads of Florida, congressman, whatever they call it. I'm not quite sure what the term is now. One of the politicians, poly meaning many, ticks means parasites. So one of the many parasites of Florida was trying to enforce tax upon Disneyland. And it was later revealed that it's a sovereign state, just as the City of London is a sovereign state. And they couldn't impose it. And that actually that Disneyland is protected under the Bill of Rights still of this country. It's owned by the Crown. And I think we all know what kind of goes on at Disneyland. Do we? Just as the Pope's staff of the Vatican has a pine cone on it, which represents the pineal gland, and it also has a paedophilic swirl symbol on it. And again, if you know the symbols that paedophiles use, a swirl means little boys, and we know that they prefer those to ice cream, shall we say, in that system. So again, going back to the state of Israel, the true actual state of Israel, or the true Israel, should I say, not the state of, is the body, is us. And we are all sons and daughters of the Creator. Israel wants to portray itself as a political military arm. And that is exactly what Christ railed against. The Christ consciousness, I believe, is an archetype. According to the law of one, Christ wouldn't have been called Christ. Obviously, many names for the man, Yeshua being one of them potentially. He wouldn't have been called Jesus Christ. Jesus comes from, but again, that's another deep dive. We won't go there. I'm trying to keep these short. So again, when we break this the system down, we break down its language, and we realize that the kingdom is within us. It says that in scripture, your script. It's a code, and we are to attain heaven or enlightenment by raising our vibrations in love and cleansing our vehicles and heaving up, to heave up the chrism oil, so that we can attain enlightenment, and that they can't pull these age-old traps upon us of slavery and drudgery, and us thinking that we are just material beings, that we, not this crude matter are we, said Yoda. So again, when we realize this, and we realize that, Christianity is supporting Israel, and that what's happening with Israel and Palestine at the moment is mass genocide. I actually got this from quite a high up source, that obviously because of there's a huge deficit in the amount of let's use children for use, the children that are being, or the babies that are being born or birthed into that system, and they're having to cover that up in some way, because the family unit has been destroyed over here. However, over there, it's still quite strong. You get married, you have children, and the children aren't coming, because we realise that half of that population are probably now sterilised, and And, again, that's another video. However, when we kind of, as I'm trying to get into this decode, and we understand that actually the City of London, which is a separate jurisdiction, just like Disneyland, and juris means law and diction means words. So they are divided from from London City. We know that the City of London even has its own police or policy officer force to enforce this corporate entity's policies, which is the banking system of the world. It's the financial arm of that cabalism. And when we break this down and we know that the City of London, not London City, is this sovereign state with, I think it's 1 square mile, as it says in the video, reigns supreme. This is the British Empire. This is Rome. This is the Roman satanic civil system. Its crest on the City of London is 2 dragons. Now, dragon comes from the Draco, or the Dagon. If you look at why the Pope wears the mitre, he wears a fish head, doesn't he? And that fish head represents Dagon, which is a Babylonian fish deity. And they all worship these pagan entities, all linking to Luciferianism, Satanism, etc. And the dragons that are on the crest of the City of London. And I think the phrase, if I remember it correctly in the video, said, Lord, Lord guide us. And Lord in Hebrew means Baal. And this is Baalism. This is Moloch. This is who they are worshipping. And they're worshipping, as I say, these Babylonian deities. And, it's in our face. The queen before Elizabeth, before she sadly left this plane of existence. However, I don't think they do. I think they transport their consciousness through time with technology that they don't disclose to us, let's say, so that they can be the overlords of matter here and be perceived as gods. So they never have to go through that karma and reincarnation. But again, that's probably another video. She said to Prince Charles, "For you shall draw your power from the seat of the dragon." And this is their lineage, the dragon, the Draco, the Dracula. As we know, he's related to Vlad the Impaler in his lineage. And I think he was quoted as saying, if I'm not incorrect, that Vlad was a really good guy. And if he was going to do things, he wouldn't do them far from his uncle Vlad, really. Which is a little strange in itself, isn't it? Without us having to decode everything. I mean, he is the Prince of Wales. Let's have a look at the Welsh flag. What's on it? A big red dragon. This is the representation of Satan, yeah, the great red dragon, as in Revelations 12:3. And Satan, the dragon, gives the authority to the Antichrist, the beast. And for me, again, it's an archetype. I'm not saying that the Christ or Yeshua wasn't an actual adept. Allegedly, he was an Ascend, part of the Ascend tribe. And he learned the ways of adepthood, which is syncretism. Ultimately, I just did an interview with Richard Vobes, and I got to touch on this briefly, but there's only so much you can touch on in an hour. And syncretism is the study of many things, whether it be gematria, archaeology, astrotheology, astrotheology being the true religion, as Santos Bonacci would say. And if you've never heard of Santos Bonacci, please do check him out about the raising of the chrism oil and whatnot. I mean, as I say, who the fuck knows? We don't know, but what we can do is pull that proverbial thread, as I say. But anything not of the Christ, if we're not walking as Christ consciousness, then it is Antichrist. And that's what the Antichrist is. Again, people think the Matrix is something outside of themselves. People think that the Antichrist is some big red horned dude in the corner. But it's something that's within us that we are projecting out as that dark shadow side. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't multidimensional entities. I think that there are. I think there's things that, if we tune into a certain channel, I like to think that I'm already on digital, and a lot of people wandering around are still on analog. And we can see that, when we can be stood next to somebody who can be on a completely different frequency to us in the supermarket, and they're in a different dimensional state to us. We can see that all the time. And, it is the question that drives us. That is what separates, woman into those higher arts from the beast. The beast are the lower lead frequencies of alchemy, and it's transmuting through pain and suffering, as Joey, who we've just interviewed, will say far more eloquently than I, is what moves us into those higher states. And we all know what a state is. Again, if we get into George Cavassalis' work, and my good friend Nathan introduced me to his work, then he will speak, as will Tony Sayers. And again, Tony Sayers, we interviewed him. He was our first episode. 00 was me and Johnny, and then 01 was us and Tony, and talks about removing your chakras. And again, the idea is that the chakra body, the light body, is what links us into Lucifer, into the flicker on the wall, Plato's cave styling. And we're so busy looking at the illusion that we've forgotten who we are. And that it is for us to remove our chakras, because actually the signal from the black box, the AI black box cube of Saturn, is tuning us in to this matrix, and it is via the chakra system, which is why it's such a big thing in the new age in 5D. I might be wrong. I'm not saying that's right, but I'm saying it's something that's very interesting, and certainly very interesting to dissect and look at. We check out our interview with Joey for more conversations on Saturn and the Black Cube, and I'll be doing some more of these on that, just some ditties. This is why I've seen the new arena at Manchester Evening News. Black Cube. Are we seeing Ground Zero when the Twin Towers fell? What did they replace it with? 2 black cubes. And this is purposely put in front of our face, and it is when we decode their language, when we decode their symbolism. And it's the Rothschilds that run the city of London, and it's the Rothschilds that famously stand in front of the painting in the video, and Satan calls his armies forth. And if people are still thinking we're not in some kind of spiritual battle, then we are. And again, I digress, but I was doing my yoga, and I looked at this overview like they live. And can you imagine if we are star seeds and wanderers and we came to incarnate here? I saw it as a theme park, but without the veil. Look at the word veil, evil veil. Yeah. It's wordplay, and we when the veil came down, when we chose that evil, when we decided to bring that in of our own free will choice, because free will is the first distortion in the universe, then the dark have been reigning ever since. But the symbols are everywhere. Going back to the dragons, there's 14 dragons that surround the city of London, and we've already lightly dipped into the symbolism of the dragon and what that means, and again the symbols of the Vatican, the symbols of Rome, these Babylonian deities. Back to Israel, they actually worship a Babylonian deity called the Cybele, or Cybele, Kybele, maybe. I may be pronouncing that wrong, don't shoot me. And that comes from the Kubaba, or the Kubala. We're getting it. This is where the Kabbalah comes from. Isn't Madonna into the Kabbalah? Pretty sure she is. And Cybele, or the Kybele, represents Isis. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Now, Isis was the consort of Kronos, and Kronos is Father Time. What does the black cube represent? Time, the tesseract of time. And energy is condensed to a slow vibration by time. And again, we've just started to think that this is real, right? You think that's air you're breathing in the Matrix? And we know, and I'm going to be interviewing a really good friend of mine, Angie Hinks, who talks, well, she actually writes about this, and she's got a book out soon, The Dream State, this third-party narrative that we pay so much attention to. Same with the legal system. We're staring at this Rubik's Cube. We're never going to work out. I mean, we are working it out, so it's the fall of Rome, so fuck 'em. But my point being is, yeah, be of the world, not in it. We've got to kind of look at it, but we've got to kind of create the new. Creation is the closest to the creator in that vibrational sense as well. And when we understand their codes, their symbols, Isis, Israel, Isis, Ra, the sun god. And the sun is where the giver of life is, of this logos. And this logos, according to the law of one, has been hijacked to a degree, but it was hijacked from our own free will choosing to create polarity or duality reality for us to come and experience what we are or what we're not, depending on what side you pick. There's always a, a polar opposite, depending on what side it is you're looking at it from. The left-hand path in the tarot is the dark path. The right is the favored path of the creator, good and evil, light, dark, hot, cold, man, woman. And we know when we integrate those polarities or those paradoxes become resolved, and it's the middle way. Always for the adepts, it's the middle way. When man integrates his feminine, and when woman integrates the masculine in balance, everything's got to be in balance. Then we can kind of begin to transcend this place, allegedly. And again, when we talk about jurisdictions and we understand that Israel the state of Israel want Jerusalem as the mothership, yeah. And we are getting into our origins. We are getting into, the Anunnaki, the black cube of Saturn, Genesis, genetics, origins, and in the beginning was the word, and DNA, word, speak and spell. And this is what creates this reality, or not, in my opinion. This cannibalism, comes from Cain and Abel, cannibal. And the story of Cain and Abel, obviously, for those that don't know, Cain slew Abel. And Cain was made to till the land, not the commercial language, the till. Ching. And Abel was a shepherd. And a shepherd is a shepherd of men and our sons and daughters. And that's what we should all aim to be. Jesus was a shepherd. He was a shepherd before he became an adept and sacrificed himself through compassion, ultimately, the ultimate act of compassion. I'm not saying everyone has to go that far. But again, Israel wants this military army, it wants a military state, it wants Israel as power rather than obviously having us all realize that we are the power and that we make the choice, whether that be individually or collectively. As we know, just like on the crest of the city of London, Lord guide us. Oh, Lord guide us. Lord is Baalism, the House of Lords, the House of Baal. And when we begin to decode the names of things and the symbols, and like I say, in They Live, we can see the theme park and it's surrounded by dragons and it's surrounded by dark pedophilic symbols. And it's always been for those that have eyes to see. And I was having this conversation the other day. It's like, it's hidden in plain sight. That's what we've been all saying for a while, isn't it? But it's not. It's never been hidden. It's always been there. Again, those that have eyes to see. The Ukraine is old Khazaria and the Slavic countries of Canaan. Because old Khazaria, well, Ukraine was old Khazaria, which was Canaan. It was called Canaan. Canada means I am Canaan or this is Canaan. California, Californication, fornication, Kali, the goddess Kali. And again, it is all about understanding the symbols, understanding the language. And it's touched on in the video, so please do watch it. And I'm gonna, like I say, try and do more of these shorts, and I don't want to drag this one on too much longer. But Marina Abramovic, the famous kind of satanic artist. Now, whether you think who does all the spirit cooking, you may think she's quite benevolent. I don't know. But the Ukraine leader, what his name's gone right out of my head. What's he called? Little guy, little dude, biggest paid actor, Zelensky wants Marina Abramovic to be the head of education for the New World Order. Isn't that a strange, unusual, scary, evil, dark, horrific thought? And before I did this video, I was just chatting with somebody and someone was like, "Oh, can't put that on YouTube," or that's a bit of a contentious issue at the moment. This Israel and Ukraine and Israel and Palestine issue. But again, this collective dissonance that we have, that's always available to us in these decodes is something, I love to deep dive, and I love to break down and I will continue to do so just for my own wonderment. Again, that we're living in this on the satanic stage, really. Shakespeare, the world is a stage. The Nike swoosh. Everyone's wandering around with these Nikes, the swoosh on these Nike garments, and the swoosh is the ring, represents the ring of Saturn. The ISIS on Starbucks, the fish tails. They've actually changed the symbol over the years, but check it out. Monster drinks, 666. The Star Trek logo, the satanic. There's, it's endless. Corona beer. Corona means crown, and crown is Kronos. And I think were Corona the first ones to do the transgender adverts? We know what the transgender agenda. I think it might have been Budweiser. Um, but again, they're worshipping these old ancient Sumerian Babylonian deities. I mean, we don't even know what the day of the week, the names of the days of the week mean. Monday comes from Moon Day. Tuesday is related to Mars. Wednesday, Mercury or Woden's Day. Wednesday, Woden's Day. Thursday is Jupiter or Thor's Day. Friday, Venus is Freya's Day. And Saturday is Saturn's Day, which is the true Sabbath of, I suppose, the fake Jews, the Zionist Jews, of which the Rothschilds and the rest are amongst them, who run the City of London, who are head of banking, and we all know what banking is about, and the fraud and the con of that. One of the biggest, but the biggest criminal fraternity going. And now, with all this fake migration and the wars that they cause, we know that it's the bankers that create all the wars. And if you don't believe that, there's a great video that you can find called all I think, is it All Men's Wars, the Bankers' Wars. And that goes into that in a lot of detail. But again, this idea of Cain and Abel, this cannibalism, this is why you get a football. This is why they play football on a pitch, because it's all frequency hijacking. Electrical beings that we are of frequency, energy condensed to a slow vibration. I mean, that's just science, man. And Cain, in the story, left for the land of Nod. He was outcast after murdering his brother Abel. And again, this idea of this land of Nod denoting the realm of sleep. And again, back to Angie, how she's going to come on and decode these third-party narratives, and how we're living in these dream states. And we're all on the wrong frequency. Even the English language is on the wrong frequency, which is, English language is a construct, etc., and so on. And when we start to get on the correct frequency, the English language, I've heard it, is actually quite beautiful, because English is a construct. It's not a true language. It's the direct opposite of Hebrew. I may have said this earlier, but again, when we get this all broken down, then we can begin to see things as they truly are, like Aldous Huxley famously said, once the doors of perception have been cleansed. So I just kind of wanted to kind of touch on that, and we have to kind of tread lightly, and we have to kind of make sure that we're aware of the spell that is being and has been cast upon us, and how we break that spell. One of the biggest ones, just to finish, and I was brought up a Roman Catholic, and the Roman Catholic Church is the civil Roman Catholic Church, which again is it's the synagogue of Satan. And it says in Scripture, "Do not eat of the flesh and do not drink of the blood." So what's the ritual they get you to do? And everybody chants it. They get you to turn the wine into the blood of Christ and the wafer into the flesh of his body, and you queue up and you eat it. Anybody? Anyway, I hope this didn't go on too far, and I'll be back for more Decode Clown World with Carly.